Wrestle Kingdom 11 is now in the books, featuring the very first 6-star match bequeathed by the king of pro wrestling journalism, Dave Meltzer. Find out what Outlaw Marc Mercer thought about that as well as the entire show. Then we have some rantings and ramblings heading into the Royal Rumble. Find out my thoughts on Meryl Streep's very, very controversial thoughts on the world of football and pro wrestling in the arts. All that and so much more on this week's Rowdy Wrestling podcast. Hit the intro.
There's a rowdy crowd today.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Rowdy Wrestling podcast, the podcast by the fans, for the fans, all over Quebec, Canada, and the rest of the world. Anything that has to do with pro wrestling, be it WWE or indie, we're here to talk about it, love about it, gush about it. I'm Tony Stabile, foremost a podcaster and pro wrestling fan. On the side, I do moonlight as a problem solver, aka manager or advocate for the Grindhouse. Sometimes I get down and dirty, not necessarily in wrestling, but just in life, if you know what I mean. How's everybody doing? The first, I feel, I'm going to say, beginning of 2017, we're really starting to getting into it. You know, the last episode, we reviewed something that was, on the cusp of 2017. We were still in 2016. Here we are, 2017. My balls are freezing over. It's cold, it's winter, and I'm going to complain about it every episode until it starts feeling better and women start wearing sundresses to make me happy again. I hope all of you are having a really great time on this road to WrestleMania. We're building into Royal Rumble. It's quite the time, and a lot of surprises are coming up. Last night on Monday Night Raw, we had Undertaker and Shawn Michaels show up. We're not necessarily going to talk about that on this week's podcast, as we got to look at Japan, as Outlaw Marc Mercer joined me. I joined him to go watch this pay-per-view at his place, and we waited a few days, watched it last Friday, had a couple of drinks, had some food in us, and forgot that how long this marathon of a show was. Started it far too late, finished it far too late, and then ended up having to record the next day over Skype instead of one-on-one in person. So you guys are going to notice Marco and I aren't in the same room on that, but hey, that's what happens on this podcast dealio. We reviewed the podcast. Spoiler alert, we didn't review the podcast. Wow, look at me, I can't even talk, and I'm not going to edit that out. We reviewed the show, New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 11, their January 4th annual event in the Tokyo Dome. So we reviewed the whole event, and spoiler alert, we liked it. Both of us really enjoyed it. Now, what was really cool about this was the very first time that Dave Meltzer has gone on record saying, no, this was a 6-star match. And we're talking about the main event for the New Japan World Heavyweight Championship. Now, you guys got to go check that out. Everybody was ranting and raving about Kenny Omega, but I think it was the match as a whole. This was a lot of fun. And Marc Mercer brought a very, I'm going to say, left-sided view on it. Still liking the match, but not for the same reasons everybody else. And I think that's very interesting and a lot of fun, and that's why I enjoy having this podcast. It's simply for the fact that I get to talk with people about pro wrestling and have differences of opinion, even if we're both liking what we're talking about, which is it's a lot of fun. And that's where two people respect each other, respect what they're talking about, and then can go on and have constructive criticism, even on something that they do already like. Shout out to Scott Norton. Let's put it out there. God damn, him and Billy Gunn both just somehow found the fountain of youth. Scott Norton a little bigger in the gut, a little skinnier in the legs. He was always top heavy to begin with, but still really fantastic to see him in the opening match Rambo. So that was a lot of fun. Now, I'm going to slide into a little rant here before we get into the show proper and I get into my usual plugs and life and love. I got a day job. I really do. It takes up a lot of my time. The whole 9 to 5 thing, I do have to live it. I got to have some way to feed my addiction, because that's how it rolls. But that's not the thing. Here I was, walking to the train, because I'm a commuter, in the afternoon on my way home, and I cut through a mall, because once again, it's bitter cold, right? I'm walking through this mall, and lo and behold, I'm just looking in front of me, and all of a sudden, I see this man as if he got speared. This old man with a cane. I know nothing hit him, because I watched him going from straight to the floor, but it looked like someone came out of nowhere and speared his ass to the ground. He hit the floor so freaking hard. I'm like, okay, this guy just broke an ankle, broke a spleen, broke a hip, broke anything, broke a skull. So I don't necessarily run, but I just, hop, skip, and a jump right over to the guy as people were just walking around him. Here's this old man hit the floor, and his wife, who's looking pretty elderly herself, can do nothing because the guy was twice her size. The guy was bigger than me. He hits the floor, down he goes. People are just walking around. No one gives two fucks. Hey, so I walk over, look over to the guy. I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I think I'm all right. I'm like, well, I'm going to help you up. And then another lady comes by. We both put our arms under him. We help the guy up, get him to get him to one of the couches at the second cup that he fell in front of. His wife picks up his cane and she thanks us. And I'm just looking at this and bunch of fucking dicks walk past the guy. Just walk past him. And that is, one of the rare few rants I'm going to go on this show that has nothing to do with pro wrestling. I don't normally talk about my personal life. It has nothing to do with my personal life, but it has to do with society. Hey, assholes, someone falls down, stop a second and help them out. Even if somebody's already going to help, maybe just sticking around a moment. You might have a talent or you might have a phone handy to be used. That's all I'm saying. Bunch of dicks walking around this guy. That wasn't cool. That was not cool. On to better things. TNA had a pay-per-view on Friday night. They're one night only. I had planned to watch the entire pay-per-view and have that as a secondary review on this week's episode. So to set the context here, TNA one night only pay-per-view. They've been doing this for a couple of years now because they stopped doing their monthly Sunday pay-per-views, and I guess they have a contract to uphold to do a pay-per-view every so often. So they usually can't, put these in the can. It'll be a Knockouts theme pay-per-view. It'll be Ace's Wild pay-per-view where they randomly put different wrestlers from different tag teams together and then have them fight for absolutely no consequence and just hopefully having a good pro wrestling show. That's a really great and fun idea. It's something different, and hopefully the price itself of the pay-per-view is going to be less and less and less because, hey, let's put it out there. There's a lot of really great wrestling you can watch in other places instead of, on a Friday night on pay-per-view in your house. Let's put it out there. Friday night, Saturday night. That's prime indie wrestling time. Just putting it there. So they had this pay-per-view with 1 day build, essentially because they had their live tapings on the Thursday night for their typical Impact. Now Anthem presents TNA Impact, which that was Impact Wrestling. That's kind of cool. I'm glad that Anthem has decided to put their branding all over it, hopefully changing people's perceptions of the product. My idea would be to change the name entirely, even call it Anthem Pro Wrestling if you want. APW. It already exists, but hey, you're a bigger company. Go ahead and have fun with it. Anyways, so they have this pay-per-view, and it's a 1 day build. I legitimately tried to watch this pay-per-view on, I think it was a Saturday or Sunday morning. And all I can say is people were going to pay for a 2.5, 3 hour version of TNA Impact at its absolute most ADD. If that's the biggest thing I can say about Impact is it's there, nobody ever lets emotion sink in. Now, this is the opposite of Raw, which the emotion sinks in far too deep, especially when it comes down to their backstage interviews where the camera stays either on Charlie Caruso for 3 hours after she's done asking the question and the guy's done cutting his promo, or they zoom in to Randy Orton's eyes just because they're so blue and piercing and I get lost in them like a fun day at the beach. Anyways, so you have this sort of thing where they're just constantly to the back, to the back, to the back, to the back, which is something I complained about on last week's World of Sport. And once again, new people at the top of the pyramid. However, I think they still have the same production and the same people who put the show together because it fell victim to that once more. And it really hurt. So I won't go into the matches because a lot of them were really great. Eddie Edwards is a beast. I love Eddie Edwards. Let's leave it at that. And the return of Davey Richards, Morier. I just couldn't finish the pay-per-view, and because of that, I'm not going to do a full review. Just know that it's full of ADHD. On that note, we have a huge episode. Me and Outlaw Marc Mercer reviewed Wrestle Kingdom 11, the annual Tokyo Dome, Japan's version of WrestleMania. A fun show, top to bottom. Just, we listened with the English commentary, so we had Kevin Kelly and Steve Corino, who were just there to have fun, and it showed throughout the night. Did it hinder from some of the matches? Yes. Did it amplify some of the matches, like the Tag Team Gauntlet? Oh, hell yeah, it did. And for some good times for you to be had, do it wearing some fantastic pro wrestling inspired clothing from my good brothers over at heelsandfaces.com. They are your one-stop shop to keep warm in this goddamn frozen tundra of Quebec that we live in, or anywhere you are in the world. You just want to look cool. All those pretty pro wrestling ladies are wearing the t-shirts to the gym. You want to impress them, you wear those shirts to the gym. It'll sure to at least get their attention for a millisecond before they realize that they're a hot wrestling chick and we don't have much chance of it. Heelsandfaces.com is your one-stop shop. Go check them out. We also have the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast t-shirt available exclusively through them. It is the best looking pro wrestling shirt since the original NWO black and white 3-letter shirt. If you guys want to pick that up or any other shirt from their shop, use the promo code ROWDY, all in uppercases, and you'll get 10% off your total purchase of anything you buy in the store. Do it right now. They support the show, just like how you can support the show by liking on Facebook, following on Twitter, and subscribing on YouTube and iTunes. Go ahead, leave me a comment as I enjoy conversation with you guys on those platforms. I like to hear your opinions. I love it when they're different from mine because I want to see where you guys are coming from. So don't be shy. Always leave a comment, even if there's no rating with it. I just like the conversation. I don't like talking to the ether. I like knowing what you guys think of the show and what and the stuff we talk on the show. So leaving a comment of that sort pushes the podcast up the ratings on YouTube and iTunes so that more eyes and ears can get on the show, helping me pay them bills, keeping the podcast 100% free and funny at times, because I know I'm not the funniest guy in the world, but hell, at least this show is entertaining. And speaking of entertaining, once we're done with the review of the week, stick around as we got to discuss and talk about the whole Meryl Streep Golden Globes incident. But for now, we're going to pay some bills with the commercial and head into the indie calendar. Kick it! What's up, everybody? This is your indie calendar update for the beginning of January. Happy New Year, everybody. All things start off, big things I should say, start off on January the 14th in Quebec City, Quebec. NSPW Kickoff 2017. Bell time is at 8 p.m. One of the main events that night, huge blockbuster going on. Montreal Elite, Frankie the Mobster, Benjamin Tull, Handsome JF, and Brad Alexis versus Team Quebec, Alex Price, Marcus Burke, and the Dead End. The next night here, downtown Montreal at Fofun Electric Battle War 41. The show proper starts at 8 p.m. as well. The Battle War Championship will be on the line as the newly crowned champion Big Mike Gibson will defend versus Speedball Mike Bailey. Then heading on over to Saturday, the 21st of January, we have NCW Power Play over in St. Therese. Huge event going on as Commissioner Joey Soprano has his position on the line as his team, Soprano approved, Chacal, Striker, Stephanie Sinclair, and Gorgeous Mike go up against NCW, Bishop, Vigilante, and Mary Lee Rose. That's at 120 Boulevard du Séminaire in St. Therese. Bell time is at 7:30 p.m. Also on the 21st of January, over in Ottawa, C4 Capital City Championship Combat presents Walk Fire With Me. That's in Ottawa, Ontario. All tickets are $20. Doors open at 7, and bell time is at 7:30. See you then.
Before the game, after the action, the only place you should be is MontrealHockeyTalk.com. 1 hour before every Habs game, our pregame show delivers the deets. Who's hot? Who's cold? Complete coverage with Stephen Hindle and Steve Farnham. Then 5 minutes after every game, tune right back in as Nick Burdocco and Coach K break it all down, play by play and hit by hit. The postgame show wraps up your night. MontrealHockeyTalk.com.
This is Uncle Dirty, and you're listening to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Joining me, as I mentioned, Outlaw Marc Mercer here to review Wrestle Kingdom 11, fitting a man who could probably throw a mean clothesline talking about Japanese pro wrestling. That's what we need. How you doing, Marco?
I'm doing great, sir. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Now, a little bit of backstory on this, because we do have to mention it. You and I held off from watching the entire show until Friday night, and then we forgot how long the fucking show was and couldn't record Friday night.
So late.
It was bad. Like, we started, I think, 8:30 and forgot that this was a 5.5 hour show.
I thought it was going to be 4 hours.
I don't know. I really don't know. But, like WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling is notorious for having a lot of vignettes and talk between matches, and they love to stretch post-match stuff. No matter where they are on the card, post-match, they let the guys go and do what they want to do what they need to do for whatever story or gimmick that they want to get over. So there's a lot of in-between, and I think that's what does it. I think that's what really stretches it out, especially when you have some matches that went like 6 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. It's the same principle as WWE at WrestleMania. Like, the match itself doesn't matter. It's all the pageantry that's around it.
Half the time, you're right. So let's really just look into it. We're going to start at the very beginning of the show. Now, I didn't see the beginning of the Rambo, their version of a battle royale with pinning to start off the show, and it's like the gimmick battle royale from WrestleMania a couple of years ago for any fans who are new to New Japan on this, where they bring back stars from the past or some independent gimmick guys like Cheeseburger.
Yeah, and honestly, I loved it. It's a great pre-show match. Way better than a singles match. It just gets everyone in it, gets a spot for the legends. Jushin Liger got a huge pop for his entrance. And it's always good to see those guys just get a bit more time in the spotlight.
Well, I like the idea because you can get guys, like you said, Jushin Liger, who aren't the main focus anymore and that are kind of way on the back burner or on the way out point of view of their careers. And you get to have a little bit of fun, and you sprinkle those guys in with some more serious hitters, some more guys you want to focus on, and naturally those are the ones you want to put over at the end of the match, but you get to have some fun dynamics. I mean, Michael Elgin and Scott Norton shared a ring. Let's put that out there.
They shared it for like 2 minutes. I was surprised Scott Norton didn't last longer.
Well,
I was kind of sad.
I just love Kevin Kelly and Corino just losing their minds and actually being very upset that Scott Norton was eliminated so quick.
Yeah, I think they called Elgin a jerk for eliminating him.
They did. I think it was even Kevin Kelly agreed. It's like, what a jerk. And that for me, that's where you put aside a lot of your disbelief. And you just sit back and you enjoy seeing these guys come out there, and you get, you get the 1, 2, 3 hits from all of these guys. And, you had Billy Gunn, who essentially just is one good Rogaine pill away from looking like he's in 1998 again.
I agree. He looked fantastic.
It was mind-blowing. Anyways, Michael Elgin wins. I think this was shy of half an hour, but just a really fun long match. I came in about 2/3 of the way in, and seeing Cheeseburger go in there, that was fun. Having Elgin versus Cheeseburger in the end, I think was a pretty fitting finish for the match.
I agree. It's always about the underdog and the big powerhouses and battle royals, so that worked.
And Elgin just keeps looking bigger and bigger.
Yeah, not necessarily in a good way. He put on some weight during his injury.
Well, you can't lift dumbbells and go running when your eye's broken, right?
True.
So let's go into the show proper. Their mainstream tie-in, their anime tie-in, you had Tiger Mask W defeating Tiger the Dark in a very shortest match on the card, 6 minutes and 45 seconds. There's not much to this story. I mean, you have to give in and just play whim to the TV show. It's your biggest show of the year, so there would have been no shenanigans here. Tiger Mask W picks up the win, and we were surprised. I didn't know who was under the mask recently, and then you pointed out he looks kind of tall.
Yeah, I figured it out by the end of the match. It's actually Kota Ibushi. I had no idea.
Yeah, Kota Ibushi and Tiger the Dark is ACH.
ACH.
And that was, hey, but then again, take off the masks, and that is a kind of matchup I want to see.
I agree, but you need to let them be themselves if you really want a good match. That match was there just because they had to put it on for the tie-in with the anime.
Well, that's the New Japan Pro Wrestling equivalent of the Cage of Jericho. The Cage of Jericho match we're gonna have at the Royal Rumble. It's simply a gimmick to put over one of their sponsors.
Yeah.
Then let's move on over to the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title match, tag team title match. Roppongi Vice versus the Young Bucks. Young Bucks coming out with gold head to toe. I couldn't see. You were able to read it. I'm blind as a bat. They also have the Super Kick Party Championship belts.
Yeah, they have their own custom-made championship now.
I mean, if you're already wearing 5 belts, what's a 6th?
Exactly.
So Roppongi Vice went ahead and beat them. But this match, I liked it because it was a lot of back and forth. But the big spot was Trent Beretta taking the biggest diving flip bump to the floor and essentially killing himself and leaving Rocky Romero to go get annihilated by the Young Bucks for a little while.
Yeah, what I really liked this year is that for the first time since I've started watching Wrestle Kingdom, it wasn't a 4-way match. It was one team versus one team, so they had the opportunity to tell a story, which they did.
Well, we have the never 6-man titles now for that, you know? They can shift the focus and really bring that back to tag team one-on-one matches with the stories, and then have the gimmick shenanigans and just hootenanny for the never titles. So I think that's a nice welcome change in my mind. The finish was fabulous, with Rocky Romero getting the pin on Young Buck A, while Young Buck B was being held down by the surprising return of Trent Beretta out of nowhere, just holding his legs so he can break up the pin.
Who just barely was able to pull himself up just long enough to cause a distraction.
And I like that. I thought that was a really well done story. That's not a finish you see all that often, specifically New Japan. So I big ups on that.
I agree. I liked it.
So let's move over to what I mentioned earlier, the never 6-man title gauntlet match. Los Ingobernables, I can't even say their name. Ingobernables, I can't say it today. I'm so tired, Marco. Defeated the champions, which were Dave Finlay, Ricochet, and Kojima. They also had Chaos and the Bullet Club in this match because it was a gauntlet match. This one about, I think, just shy of 25 minutes, and really, this is where you mentioned this is spot filled. There was no real story told here, as you know, Team A would come out, would be beat by Team B would be beat by Team C, and so in the end, I don't remember much. I just remember seeing Dave Finlay with the dumbest looking haircut.
Yeah, that was the let's put everyone that's not already in a match on the card match.
That's the we don't have any room in the Rambo match.
Exactly. That was the Andre the Giant Battle Royal of Wrestle Kingdom.
And, and it really sucks because it actually is a title match, but it's the never 6-man title, which means nothing in the world of pro wrestling at all.
I don't even know why it's a thing.
Because there's how do I put it this way? Lucha is slowly creeping its way into American culture, Japanese culture, in the sense that they want to have those styles of matches. So that's why we have the 3-man tag titles in ROH now. It's the same reason. It's just so they can have these matches that look similar to what's really popping the crowd down south. And that way they want to do it here and just have more, spot fests.
Yeah, like they need another reason to have spot fests.
Well, hey, listen, we got a better junior tag team title match because of it. In my mind, that's a worthy sacrifice, because let's look who you sacrificed in this. Who in any of these teams would have pulled off, like Ricochet? You and I had this discussion. I thought he could have had a better match on the card if you would let him go one-on-one or just a straight-up tag match. But you said you don't see what everybody freaks out about him for. So in this in this case, in your opinion, who in this match could you have subbed out and given something better to on this card?
Honestly, none of these guys. Those were all the B teams.
Exactly. So I think sacrificing the B team, sacrificing these guys, and letting that happen is like, okay, it's your filler, because you gotta let the crowd really relax a little bit for how long this show ended up going.
I agree, but the crowd hadn't really come alive at that point, so I don't think they really needed the relaxed match.
Oh, but like you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more matches after that. I think I in my mind, I really do believe that they didn't need I'm not calling it a calm down match, but just like a filler if you're really going to go ahead and try and fit 5 hours of television there.
Yeah, I guess. Go take your piss break early. Just get your popcorn or your noodles or whatever they eat there.
Yeah, because your last 4 matches, nobody should have gotten up.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the last 2.5 hours of the show.
At that point, yeah. So after that, we had Cody Rhodes versus Juice Robinson, the former, what was it, CJ Parker in NXT?
Yep, the man who broke Kevin Owens' nose.
Oh, what a bad move. But these guys only had 10 minutes. I liked it. I thought it was a really fun little match because you could really show heel Cody Rhodes. And we were discussing this a little bit while we were watching. You know, between all of his personas, you know, putting aside the Stardust heel, Cody Rhodes was always great as a heel in WWE. Now, I think he's a heel that should be much further up on the card. Not in New Japan because he was just there strictly to have a match at the Tokyo Dome. But like in ROH and TNA and even in WWE, I felt that this guy now, we're really starting to see his true worth and could be far more than just a good hand or an Intercontinental Champion. But this match in itself really showed us that, hey, this is Cody. He's going to be a little more diabolical. They call him the American Nightmare now, which I think is a fun play on his lineage. And really just slowing down the pace of the match and throwing a lot more submissions on there. A really, really, in my mind, really, really great trailer hitch or Indian Deathlock. And then at the end, he just hit his Crossroads finish for the win.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I'll agree. The match was there just so Cody Rhodes could say he wrestled at Wrestle Kingdom, basically.
I'm going to agree with you on this one. But I thought it was a fun little match. One that you could put on the card, and then in the end of the day, you know, people can go back and be like, oh yeah, that wasn't too horrible of a match. Now, compared to what we had on the card, compared to the matches later on, oh fuck yeah, this match is nothing. But on any other card, it would have been alright.
Anyway,
nah.
It wasn't meant to compete with the main events. It was there, and like you said, no one's gonna complain that it was there. It was a good match, but it was just there.
Yeah. And you mentioned it, like finish out of nowhere. I think you and I had mentioned it about 4 or 5 times throughout the entire card. There was no crescendo to the finishes. There was something a little off throughout the night.
In the other matches, it kind of took away. Like in the anime match, it did take away because it was out of nowhere. But in this case, I think it worked because at least it was Cody's finish.
That's true. He hit his finish.
He just hit his finish out of nowhere. It's no different than Randy Orton hitting the RKO out of nowhere.
No, and I'm not against it. It's just I felt this was something that was a little rampant throughout the night because even Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly for the ROH title, which we should just start talking about right now. Adam Cole defeated Kyle O'Reilly to regain the ROH championship that he lost back at Final Battle in December. This was 11 minutes, right? And this is an ROH championship match on a card that's not produced by ROH. These guys got 11 minutes, and it really felt like they took the, I guess, 50 to 90% lengthwise of an ROH championship match, shoved it in there, and we lost the beginning and we lost the ending because, Adam Page, not Adam Page, whoa, that's a different Adam. Adam Cole hit his finish out of nowhere in my mind, pinned Kyle O'Reilly, and when he pinned him, the look on his face, like either he's a really great actor or, they just decided at the last second to cut it there because he looked really surprised.
I agree. I don't think it was really out of nowhere because he had a setup and he hit like 4 or 5 moves in a row.
No, but that's what I mean.
Pinning him.
Not the finishing move out of nowhere, but the end. Like your end sequence came out of nowhere.
I guess so, but again, he hit him with his finish, so I can't say it's really surprising that the match ends there. But yeah, if that wasn't planned, then good on them. That was a great way to surprise Adam Cole. But if it was planned that way and he was just acting, that makes him look stupid because you shouldn't be surprised you just beat a guy with your finish.
Yeah, but here's the thing is you're also the heel. If you're the heel in the story, like you should kind of be like, oh fuck, I actually did it. Like I'm okay with that if you're going to go and tell that sort of story. So this is the kind of post-match reaction where I feel you need a follow-up on. Because if you just leave it at that, then yeah, Adam Cole kind of looks weak in my mind or not confident. So if you go ahead and like on ROH television or the next time they bring this up and they follow up on it and be like, look at Adam Cole, kind of surprised, and then you tell that kind of story of like the undeserving heel champion, then I'm okay. I'm okay with that.
I guess so, but you can't call him undeserving when he won clean in the middle with his finish.
This is pro wrestling. You're expecting everybody to follow pure logic. And I agree with you on that one. You bring up the most valid point, but then someone's going to come up from behind us and be like, you're expecting that. Look at WWE for the past 20 years.
I know. I shouldn't be expecting logic in pro wrestling. I'm sorry.
You shouldn't be expecting someone to have thought this through. Next up, we had the IWGP Tag Team title match, the heavyweight one. We had Ishii and Yano defeating the champions, the Gorillas of Destiny, Tonga Roa and Toma Tonga, and Team GBH. This was... How do I put it this way? This was really a match where guys were just constantly swearing at each other, and Yano being Yano.
That was a match that was very entertaining, if only for Tonga Roa's constant swearing.
Well, here Tonga Roa and Tonga Toma, at one point, I don't know what the spot was, but Tonga Roa was on the outside, and Tonga Toma and Toma Tonga was inside the ring, and he's just laying there, and Roa just yells, "You all right, fucker?" And it was so funny. It was so funny to hear these guys constantly swearing. You had,
even Togi Makabe got in on it.
Yeah,
he
Makabe.
Just got, "Fuck are you?" and just clotheslined the shit out of him. That was awesome.
And you had Kevin Kelly and just Carino losing their minds. Carino having to mute his mic on so many occasions.
Yeah, he was laughing so much.
And these guys were just having so much fun with that. This is where you could tell, they understood that the Japanese producers really didn't pay attention to them, much like they had done with JR a couple of years ago, where it's just all right, do your thing. And so these guys at one point, they're just you know what? Let's just have fun with this match. And they were barely calling the match at that point. Instead, they were just making jokes about, hey, parents, put your kids to bed now. Or kids, you should mute until the bell, until somebody wins.
Yeah.
And that was funny. I thought that was a really great way for a match where you got a bunch of guys who are a little clunky in their delivery, but their charisma across the board is phenomenal. I mean, Toru Yano, I just love watching this guy run around. I could watch this man just walk down the street and I'd be a happy camper.
Yeah, it seems to be a new trend in New Japan to have a comedy character team up with a badass character. You've had it for a year now with Makabe and Onma, and now it's Toru Yano and Tomohiro Ishii, who I think won the match.
Yeah, they won the match. So Toru Yano pulls the G1 the G1 trophies. He's holding both of them. He gets both title belts. Ishii doesn't care whatsoever. Ishii just walked away. And Toru Yano's running around doing the RVD pose, yelling at the fans, being Yano, just left and right. And that was the post match was almost as good as the match itself.
Yeah, and it really defined their character. Ishii doesn't give a single shit. He just wants to beat a motherfucker up.
Yeah, and if he has to put up with Yano because they're gonna win, he'll do it.
He will.
So moving on over to the next title match. Now this is really where I feel the pay-per-view went from fun to good to great. Where we had the junior heavyweight title match, Takahashi versus Kushida. That was a fun match. Time Bomb versus Hoverboard Lock. That was cool.
It was, but there were so many dangerous bumps in it.
They're both crazy. Let's put it out there. Both of these men are just as fucked up as Trent Beretta and as Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada. Needless bumps, but they at least were able to weave a fun story through those spots, and it wasn't just a spot for the sake of it, in my mind.
Some of them kind of were, though. I don't remember what it was exactly. There was one at the beginning of the match that was really crazy that I commented on to you about.
Yeah, I remember we both went, oh, fuck. Wasn't to the outside.
Oh, it was a senton to the outside.
Yeah, and he just did the gigantic senton over the top rope to the outside.
Yeah, and the other guy didn't catch him at all. That must have sucked so bad.
Yeah, that's right. No, it wasn't over the top rope. It was from the top rope. And we kept saying what it was is Kushida just wanted to avoid the feet to the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyways, end of the match, Takahashi goes ahead, defeats Kushida, winning the junior heavyweight title. I think it was really the turning point of the pay-per-view.
Yeah, lots and lots of title changes so far.
I think most of the night were all title changes.
I
don't think one title was
every
retained.
match except the 2 main events.
Yeah, it was just the 2 main events where the champions retained. Outside of that, and they I was happy. Kevin Kelly pointed that out. He goes, usually there aren't too many title changes on these huge Tokyo Dome shows, and I think once they got to the Kushida title change, they pointed out, they're like, well, tonight, I mean, it's they're batting 100, 1,000, or whatever baseball analogy that is.
Yeah.
So let's move on over to the never open weight title. I think you enjoyed this far more than I did, and I still thought it was a fun match. You had Hiroki Goto defeating Katsuyori Shibata. Holy crap!
I think it was really fun. I mean, it was a Shibata match, so it was hard hitting, but nowhere near as bad as last year with Ishii was, or the year before when it was Ishii and Makabe.
Well, Ishii versus Shibata, I mean, they were just at one point punching each other just straight in the face, and that was it.
Yeah.
This time around, they skirted around it. Yeah. Well, they skirted around it where you were waiting for Shibata to start hitting his headbutt, but it was actually Goto throwing more headbutts.
Yeah, but it wasn't like the shoot headbutt like Shibata does. It was work headbutts,
yes.
which I'm fine with. You don't have to fucking kill the other guy.
Yeah, no, I don't think Shibata ever hit his headbutt, did he?
Was he bleeding by the end?
No.
Then he didn't.
But think about that. Here's the guy known for your headbutt, and he never once hit it, and you just had Goto, pulling the worked headbutts to the neck, to the clavicle, and he hit like about 20 or 30 of them at one point.
At least, yeah. But it was a really fun match, and I wonder if the title change means Shibata's moving up for the Intercontinental or IWGP Heavyweight belt now.
So then let's talk a little bit about this in the sense that, you mentioned that he was going to be one of the three staples of New Japan in the mid-2000s, and then he decided to go off and do his MMA stuff. And when he came back, they're like, well, you know what, we'll take you back, but we're going to keep you nice and low on the card.
Yeah, that's why he's been stuck in the never open weight division for like 3 years now. But he's so over at this point that I think they have to put him back with the heavyweights. Yeah,
you got to pull the trigger back on him. So we'll see. I mean, you're right. He lost the championship here. Hopefully it's only up in this sense.
It has to. There's no other reason for him to lose it.
Yeah. So then let's look at what happened here with Naito retaining versus Tanahashi, the IWGP Intercontinental Championship match. I thought this was a lot of fun. This was Naito's match.
It was, but that's been Tanahashi's thing for the past 2 Wrestle Kingdoms. He's just making stars.
But the thing is, Tanahashi's so... How do I put this? Ingrained that he can go ahead and lose. He can go ahead and lose next year, and I don't think it's going to hurt his legacy or hurt his over at all.
Not at all, and I didn't notice it last year, but this year I noticed that he started to slow down. Like, he's so broken from all that time he spent being the ace that he has to build new stars anyway because he can't keep the company on his shoulders anymore.
Well, you and I both mentioned it. We thought both of these guys looked 10 years older just when they were doing their entrances.
Yeah.
Like, that was insane to see that. Just, the bags under the eyes, a lot more wrinkled-faced. So I thought this was a fun, hard-hitting match, but this was, like, we said it. Tanahashi went out there and decided to make Naito, even bigger.
Yep, Star Maker Tanahashi was at it again.
So then let's really talk about this, the match that almost broke the internet, the match that broke Dave Meltzer, the heavyweight title match, Okada versus Omega, Okada retaining. This was going into it, the build was, this was Kenny Omega's show. Kenny Omega got the really fun Terminator intro. These guys went almost 50 minutes. And, win, lose, or draw, Omega came out of this possibly looking like the most badass guy in the company.
I will disagree on that.
That's what
Everyone's been talking about Omega for the past week, but I think that match really showed how ridiculously good Okada is.
And I agree with you, but here's the thing is, Okada's already sitting at the top of the mountain. We already know how great Okada is. It's the fact that they're really letting, Kenny Omega come in there and dance with Okada to the point where at the end of the match, they're equals. I see these men as equals. And seeing, Omega go in there, and look, he never hit his finisher once. He kicked out of a Rainmaker. Okada hit 3 or 4 Rainmakers. So you got to think about that. Like, they really went out there and decided, okay, Kenny, you're losing, but you're going to look like an absolute animal.
Yeah, he's been put in the AJ Styles spot where he's the one gaijin that you expect can win the big belt.
And I think they're going to have to pull the trigger on him sooner rather than later.
It's going to happen during the year for sure.
Well, they're doing a tour, I think in July or August, they're touring the United States. So the very first, full-blown New Japan tour of the U.S. And either you put the strap on him before or during that, and that'll attract a lot of American fans.
For sure. If there's one time they need to pull the trigger, it's there.
Yeah.
Whether they do it before and he drops it and gets it back there, that's another story. But I for sure think he's going to be the champion at some point during that tour.
Yeah. So the match itself, some of the bumps that were just ridiculous, and I think you and I agreed, earlier in the night, I knew what was coming, but we saw a really sweet-looking dragon suplex. And then you said, oh, that's one of my favorite moves. And I went, yeah, you just wait for the main event. And lo and behold, Kenny Omega, dragon suplex Okada, off the top rope, both men landing square on their heads.
That was the one, cause I told you before the match, I couldn't wait to not like it and shit on it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that because I really liked the match. Even though I'm not a big Kenny Omega fan. That Dragon Suplex spot is the one thing I didn't like about that match.
It was... I'm gonna have to agree with you 100%. It was the most needless bump in the world. Both men could have gone... They could have done the flip through. Flip through and land on the belly. They could have just not done it. They could have just teased it and decided to go for a back suplex. Anything. But that was murder. That was suicide murder.
Yeah, Okada said on Twitter, that was the only time in my life I was in the ring and I thought I was going to die.
It was just so scary. And then we had the spot, which I actually thought was really cool looking.
Wait, you skipped over one part, what Corino said right after.
Oh my God, yes, we have to talk about that.
Years from now, when they get neck fusion surgery, they're going to think about this moment.
And the brilliance of the fact that here's Steven Corino, barely a year removed from neck fusion surgery.
Exactly.
And you're right. That's if we take away that one spot in the match, does it make it any less great?
No.
It makes it just as good. So I think, unfortunately, that's where the short-sightedness of these two guys had. You didn't need to go there.
It definitely didn't need to. I'm surprised both of them could still walk after, because that looked nasty.
Well, Omega, I was paying attention more to Omega because he was on the underneath of the move.
Yeah.
When he came down, he just threw his head to the left. So it was a lot of impact on the shoulder and
Okada was lucky enough that his legs had moved past his head, so the momentum kept going forward instead of down. Yeah. And he rolled through. That's how he didn't break his neck.
It was just gross.
Yeah.
But to come back, a spot that I really enjoyed was on the outside. On the outside, you had Okada was buried underneath one of the Japanese tables, and Kenny Omega decided to do a coup de grace double stomp right to the dick through the table.
Yeah, it would have hurt more if the table wasn't there.
It would have hurt more, but it wouldn't have looked as cool from afar.
I guess so, yeah.
And then they set up the table, and Omega decides to take the biggest flying bump through the table, just narrowly missing the edge of the platform, avoiding the Shawn Michaels bump onto the casket.
Yeah, he could have fucked his lower back if he had got the edge of the platform.
Oh, that would have hurt so hard. But that made me think of something from earlier on in the night. During the Young Bucks match, one of the young boys ate one of the most vicious super kicks I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that just made me remember because the Young Bucks were at ringside for this match. But big ups to the young boy taking that super kick.
I agree. And big ups to the Young Bucks not doing any stupid shit around the ring like they usually do. They were really into the match. They were just there to cheer Kenny Omega on, and I thought it added to the match.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. That it was surprising because there were many times during the match when the camera would pan over and I'd see one of the Young Bucks, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's right, they're here. And so when the bell rang, I was like, wait a second, they played zero part in this match.
No, they were just there looking concerned and cheering on Kenny Omega.
Yeah. So in the end, Wrestle Kingdom 11, I think this one was a really great show. Some really fantastic matches. In my opinion, still doesn't top how awesome Wrestle Kingdom 9 was. Wrestle Kingdom 9 is one of my favorite shows of all time. But this is, if you guys have a chance, if you're new to New Japan, if you haven't watched anything before, go ahead and go watch this show. Maybe not all 5 hours will keep you will keep you in your seat, but the Rambo, the top 3 matches on the card are 100% worth it. If you have that WWE I guess need, you got Cody versus Juice Robinson, you got the ROH title match. Really, in my mind, a fully rounded card from top to bottom that where the matches themselves, some of them didn't have a great build to the finish, and the finishes just kind of came out of nowhere. I felt the show itself had a beautiful ramp up in importance and in match quality and match feel. What did you think?
I agree. It was well booked, well executed. Like you said, I don't think it was as good as 9. It may not even have been as good as 10, but it was still a great show, and I enjoyed it.
Yep, and you know, the Wrestle Kingdom shows generally are in the top 5 pay-per-views around the world for the entire year. So this has set the bar pretty high already for 2017.
Oh, definitely. January 4th is always one of the best pay-per-views. It starts the year, so it's harder to remember at the end of the year when you go for year-end awards. But like you said, it always sets the bar, and now the ball's in WWE's camp. We'll see what they do at WrestleMania.
Yeah. Oh, but did you? Someone pointed out to me on Twitter that some sheet, I forget what it was. It could have been Alvarez, reported that people backstage at WWE saw Wrestle Kingdom's main event and went, "Oh man, we really got to have a great main event for WrestleMania."
But the way it was said, they meant now we need to have a really good in-ring wrestling match to end WrestleMania. Which I get. WrestleMania is not about necessarily what happens in the ring. It's about the end of the storylines and stuff like that.
I get
which
that.
Is why we get like coronations like last year with Roman Reigns or whatever. But I guess that now that they want a really good in-ring match, it just puts more chances behind AJ Styles main eventing, which I'm all for.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. But the thing is, what's stopping them from making a great storyline that leads to a great match? I mean, it was
nothing, but it's never been about the in-ring product. It's never been about the actual wrestling.
I know, and that's what's kind of like, I understand that and I totally believe it, but why not go ahead and use the old school mentality of, and I know that bit Vince McMahon in the ass last year, but okay, what matches do I want to see at WrestleMania? What matches do I think are going to be fun? All right, that's our end goal. Let's build to that instead of let's just constantly build and see where we go.
Again, even in that mentality, it's not about what's the best in-ring match is going to be. It's what match is going to draw money.
Yes, but
what's my money match? It's not what's my 5-star match. It's what's my money match.
But 90% of the time, your money match is going to be a 3.5 to 4 minimum. Like, I enjoyed both Cena versus Rocks.
I enjoyed, the I don't remember if it was the first. I enjoyed one of them more than the other.
Yes. No, the first one was head and shoulders better than the second one. And I think it's because they really used too much of the material in the first one. But that's okay. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But there's your story. There's your idea. You built to WrestleMania and your money match, because let's put it out there. John Cena versus The Rock, I mean, in many years, is probably your biggest money match you could make.
Oh, for sure.
And at least they realized, like, okay, that's a year or two after John Cena transitioned from being John Cena, the guy who's clunky, to John Cena, the guy who could actually put on great matches. That was post Money in the Bank versus CM Punk. I feel that was really a turning point where Cena realized, oh, I can't just be this asshole with the same 5 moves. I can actually do stuff in my matches and tell an actual story as opposed to get my ass kicked, hit my 5 moves, and then win, Yeah,
he went from the Hulk Hogan story to, like, more of a Shawn Michaels mode of selling and telling a story.
Which I'm glad John Cena finally realized. Because had he realized that far earlier in his career, I think people wouldn't have soured so much on him. Many of the 18 to 34 males might have been still behind him. Because look at Shawn Michaels. This is a dude who, let's just say he wrestled like John Cena, would still have all the women loving him like they do, but the men would have turned on him so much more. Like, we're not going to hide it. There was that vocal minority of Shawn Michaels haters, which were 18 to 34 males, but far more of them still loved Shawn Michaels because of how great his matches were.
Yeah, and then he had to retire for 4 years.
And then came back and everybody just loved him.
Yeah.
So,
but the point is, Cena was saving his body by wrestling the way he was wrestling. Which allowed him to spend like 12 years on top.
Well, here's the thing. That's kind of... He wrestled to save his body, but John Cena had a lot of time off, a lot of injuries. I think
not that many.
Well, in, what is it? 2010, he was out. He was out of most of 2010. He had already been on top
for 10 years.
No, but in 2010, he was already out for a while. I mean, leading into the time he won the Royal Rumble, I can't remember if that was 2009 or 2010.
Yeah, he had the pec tear.
He had the pec tear, but before the pec tear, he'd already had a bicep injury. And then before the pec tear, wasn't that also when he had, or it was right after the pec tear, he had the neck surgery?
Yeah, he missed all of 2 weeks because of that.
No, he missed all of 2 weeks in the ring, but he was still out for a little while. That was his Batista, and where they blamed the Batista bomb, where he caught him from the top rope, which was bullshit because his neck was already hurt. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was wear and tear.
Yeah, so if somebody like we're too lazy right now while we're talking about this, so somebody's probably going to come back and yell at us. But I can pretty much point out, like, John Cena's almost had an injury every year, with the exception of when he was champion for almost 2 years.
I guess so. I guess you're right.
But at the end of the day, to bring it back to the main focal point of New Japan Wrestle Kingdom 11, in my mind, this is a show that people should go out and check out wherever you can. Legally, I'm not your father, so it's out there illegally as well. Do what you want.
Yeah, if you can, just go to New Japan World. I think they have an English service now, but. Yeah, like you said, every streaming service you use for wrestling usually will have it.
Bingo. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me this week.
Well, you're very welcome.
And, I enjoy having you on the shows to talk this stuff, an alternative point of view other than mine, so that way I'm just not yelling into a microphone by myself. So thank you for coming on, and everybody else, we'll be back next week with more pro wrestling goodness.
All right, bye, guys. Thanks for having me, Tony.
So Hollywood is crawling with outsiders and foreigners. And if we kick them all out, you'll have nothing to watch but football and mixed martial arts, which are not the arts. They gave me 3 seconds to say this, so.
This is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
All right, guys, thanks for sticking around the podcast after the review, and for something I felt I needed to add on at the end, so that way if you didn't want to hear it, you could have just stopped. But I want to know your opinion on this. So the story goes, Meryl Streep won some sort of award at the Golden Globes. I took the time to watch her entire speech. And what it was is, this is a portion that I decided to snip out here because it was what was relevant in my mind. She was talking about how Donald Trump wanted to throw out a whole bunch of immigrants and get rid of these outsiders, quote unquote, in the United States, and that she felt so many of those outsiders were in Hollywood and were the artistes behind your entertainment, behind your art. Now, she finished off the speech by saying, if you throw all those people out, like myself and anybody else, well, then all you're going to have on television is football and mixed martial arts, which is not art. This is what she said, and then a thunderous applause, which led to the downfall of liberty. I had a little fun with that. But what I want you guys to take away from this, and what I want to know your opinions on here is that a fair assessment? Here we are, we're looking at in mixed martial arts specifically, and I love Scott Coker just simply telling her, hey, you know what, this is art. Come be my personal guest to our event next weekend, and then we can talk about this. And I want to talk to you guys about it, because these are trained athletes, much like pro wrestling and football, and, sometimes it unfairly gets lumped in together, but this time I think it is fairly lumped in together. These are highly trained individuals, athletes, who devote their entire lives to something that ends up bringing you entertainment. Now, whether it's a guy who throws some paint up on a wall, whether it's a lady who gets heavily maked up and then puts on an accent in a very, very talented manner. Let's not make that anything of an attack towards Meryl Streep herself and her acting prowess. One of the greatest actors in the world, and I enjoy many of her films. But how is that any different from a person devoting their lives to a competition in which mixed martial arts is an art form? It's martial arts is something that if you watch and take the time to watch, let's put down like even karate sanfuki, even just karate straight up. Some of these people, they'll never fight a day in their lives, but you can watch them put a sequence together of moves and disciplines for over like 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and it's a wonderfully put together performance that, in my mind, any sort of performance is an art. So here I am defending, unfortunately, the Kardashians. Here I am defending, unfortunately, reality television. But at the end of the day, art is art. Now, is the artist Kim Kardashian? Not necessarily. It might be the producer weaving the story that they're putting together in front of the camera. Is the story of a comeback from, in the third quarter where you just need one last touchdown, the story of, a washed up quarterback having one last go at the big game, is that not artistic at the end? What you can pull from it, the emotion that you're getting from it? So that's where I'm going to throw Meryl Streep under the bus and go, listen, that was a very uneducated, ignorant comment for her to make from someone who is so highly regarded, not only in her field, but as a human being, where her opinion, unfortunately, isn't taken just as an opinion, but as gospel. So that's a very, in my mind, irresponsible thing for you to throw towards football, mixed martial arts, and anything in that realm. Now, I agree with you with what you're saying. Trump is pretty much just being a dick, saying you got to get rid of all these quote-unquote outsiders. Everybody in this world is an outsider. Just go back 300 years, if you know what I mean. So that being said, I want to know what you guys think. What did you guys think of Meryl Streep's comments? Did I take it a little too personally? Did people take it a little too personally? Was the applause that she received at the very end of that comment so thunderously positive? Did she deserve it? Do you agree with what she said? Do you agree with what I think? Let me know. I want to know what you guys are thinking in the comments below. And there we go. It is the end of the show this week. I want to thank each and every one of you for downloading, who've been here with me. 2017 is looking to be a fantastic year for pro wrestling and the Rowdy Wrestling podcast. My apologies to Blackburn. We ran out of time this week. Couldn't have you on the show. Hopefully we'll have you on sometime in the near future. Everybody else, have a week. That's about all the time we have for this week. If you want to hear the uncut, uncensored interview or any of our past episodes, head on over to rowdywrestling.net or our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Facebook, Twitter, and iTunes. Once more, I'm Tony Stabile. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more Rowdy Wrestling. But for now, keep it locked to CJIM.